Hey, you guys, welcome back to Chris's Granite Paradise. Thanks for joining us today. Today, we're going to be looking at some of the more attractive pearlescent, iridescent feldspars seen in many of the granites. Using the term loosely from my background in the granite countertop business, we called a lot of things granite. Many of them are not, of course, but there were a lot that were iridescent, pearlescent. I've got quite a bit of that around here. So over the course of the video, we're going to dig out some pieces, look at them up close, look at them from a distance. We're going to look at some gravel. I'll have some time lapse for you, some close-up photos. I'm even going to try and display some scanner images to get some good up-close looks. So we'll see that through the course of the video. Again, thanks for joining us. Hello, my name is Chris, and I'm a rockaholic. This bench is made of a material we in the stone business call blue pearl. It's a larvikite, and it's actually quarried in Larvik, Norway. That's the name of the stone, because I guess that is where it was first quarried or first found. There are similar stones found in other places, but this is the classic blue pearl. If we can zoom in here and focus, you can see the pearlescence of the feldspars. Just spectacular. This would not be a granite because it really doesn't have any quartz. It's basically two minerals that you can really see. The black is most likely biotite, is what I'm guessing, because it sparkles a little bit. Some of them sparkle red. And then, of course, the blue is the feldspar. Very nice pearlescence. This was one of the first stones I ever came across in the granite business that I just fell in love with, for obvious reasons. Blue pearl is one of those older classic colors, as we used to call them in the stone business. This means that it has been quarried for a long enough time that there is enough of it around that really any granite shop will likely have some around, or if not, they can definitely get a hold of it. We also called it a tombstone color in the sense that it is popular for that purpose due to its extreme resistance to weathering. It really doesn't absorb water at all, as well as its beauty, especially in sunlight. I also have a large amount of gravel here in Granite Paradise made of blue pearl, as well as many other exotic stones of which visitors are always welcome to take a few pieces home with them. Check out this art base made from blue pearl. It was a bronze sculpture of a dolphin. And so we talked about it and we wanted to represent the ocean. So it was like the dolphin coming up out of the water. So I used blue pearl from Norway, with the blue pearlescence you can see there, and then I tried to make the edge wavy to represent the waves of the ocean. And this dolphin is made of bronze, and it's a pretty good size sculpture. It's really beautiful. Well done. The artist's name is, and forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, Clark Schreibus is who did the bronze. And it was really an honor to be part of that project. A lot of fun. Thank you so much, Art. Labrador Antique is another iridescent feldspar-rich stone that we had from time to time, and I brought all of it home that I could. This stone is also from Norway and is perhaps the closest in appearance, at least when the crystals are large, to the Labradorite that most of us rockhounds are familiar with. Occasionally, these crystals can be huge and very colorful. When I left the stone business, as far as full-time employment is concerned, about 5 years ago, rumors were circulating that this stone was no longer available, as the deposit was likely exhausted. I have not confirmed this, but I am glad that I hoarded as much of it as I did. With this bright flash of so many different colors, it is hard to believe that this just comes out of the ground. I did look on Google and it is still available, but I don't know if that's because of old stock or because they are still quarrying it. You can see the pearlescence. This is probably the closest stone I remember us ever cutting that was similar to the classic Labradorite that we've all seen cut and polished for sale in rock shops. This here, this is back when I had a lot more energy for overzealous projects. We had some slabs of Labrador Antique that had just a tremendous amount of pearlescence. And so what I did is I took a tile saw and I just added some of the smaller scraps. I cut these pieces and then cut them thin, and I glued them with epoxy to another sink cutout that I just happened to have around. If you look on the edge, you can see how thin I actually cut those Labradorite slabs. And I glued them on here and polished the whole thing down. But just depending on how you look at it, just a tremendous amount of pearlescence. Really nice stuff. I hope these colors are showing up for you. Anyway, that's my take on Labrador Antique. Look at some of those patterns. Just the more you turn it, the more you see. The rock is actually not a granite, but rather an anorthosite, with the primary mineral being the Labradorite feldspar, which is the reason for the flashy colors that we are seeing. So I've got a little patch of the Labrador Antique in gravel form here, but as you can see, it's still the summer season, and we kind of like to max out our flowers because for most of the year it's very sterile back here. But this is all Labrador Antique. I really don't have room to set up for the time lapse, so I'll just wet a few of these so you can get an idea of the pearlescence. Some of them have it more than others, obviously. That's got some nice fleck to it. What I've thought about the feldspars in these materials is that every single feldspar pearlesces. It's not like there's only a few that do. It's just that on any given surface, the crystal has to be facing the right way. So oftentimes it's just a matter of turning them until you get the right angle, if that makes sense. And sometimes all the crystals are facing the wrong way compared to how it's broken. There's a fleck there on the, it barely hits it on the edge. That's got a lot of nice color. I just saw a big shine. One thing I do want to mention about obviously our slabs, they're polished on one side. This is the polished side. Then we have the broken faces. And then there's the back. And the back is very rough because it's sawn most of the time with a wire saw or a water jet, things of that nature. So if you were to find these in the river, it would probably look more like this. It does have some pearlescence, but you're likely to only see it when it's wet. Over here we have the bench made of emerald pearl, which is similar to blue pearl. In fact, if I understand right, it's quarried in the same area of Norway. And the difference being that it's almost black, and the feldspars pearlesce basically a greenish emerald looking color, and hence the name. Another larvikite from Norway, and it's directional. It's interesting. I don't know if they purposely cut these slabs in such a way that, so from the angle that I'm looking at it, most of the crystals reflect towards me and the sun is behind me. If I were to turn this around, I don't know if I could turn it with one hand, it wouldn't shine much anymore. That thing's heavy. So here you can already see I haven't turned it all the way around yet, but it really doesn't shine much. So it's when we would install this in the house, Sorry, I'm shaking. I'm holding the phone with one hand and turning this with the other. When we would install this in the house, we would have to be very careful that we got the grain going the right way. Here is a close-up scanned image of the crystals for you. Another well-known material in the granite countertop world is Galaxy Black, a very dense, heavy, relatively fine-grained gabric anorthosite that is quarried in India. There is a similar material that we will be seeing further on in the video that is an extremely coarse-grained anorthosite, very similar to this in color, known as antique brown, which is quarried in the West African nation of Angola. Though they look similar, they are totally unrelated. This Galaxy Black, however, due to its smaller crystal size and very even grain, is extremely tough, and we have always said that it could be used as a loading ramp and would never break. I think in the video you'll be able to point out the gold flecks. Those are actually bronzite, which I guess is a gemstone, and I didn't know until I did a little bit of research. Rock is very magnetic. And geologically, Galaxy Black, quarried in India, it is a gabric anorthosite with these inclusions of bronzite, which makes it a very interesting rock. The magnet will not fall off. Very magnetic. Where'd my magnet go? There it is. Don't want to lose it. Since we're mentioning magnetism, I want to point out that emerald pearl and blue pearl are also quite magnetic. Never would have guessed it's magnetic, but it's plenty magnetic. I can pull on the magnet quite... Uh-oh. See how it's stuck underneath. Which implies that blue pearl, I have a piece of blue pearl right here. Yep, blue pearl is also magnetic. Yeah, interesting. These are larvakites quarried in Norway. All right, I'm hoping the reflection of the sun isn't too much of a glare. This is basically a pegmatite version of the Galaxy Black. I mean, it's not. It's actually from Angola. And this had a different name. But it's a very similar color to the Galaxy Black bar table that I showed you. Only the crystals, as you can see compared to my hand, are gigantic. And they really have an amazing sheen or pearlescence. It's fascinating in these larger crystals to see the growth patterns and striations, which only add to the shimmering light display. In a full slab, this antique brown can be quite stunning. If this excites you, I recommend that you watch my video on graphic granite. I went digging through my stash and I found these couple of pieces. One of them, the one we're focusing on here, is called Vulga Blue. I'm not sure if that's showing or not, but it has these beautiful peacock looking crystals that have almost a radiating structure to them. I'll wet it and you'll see it even more. There's a nice bright one there. So this is called Vulga Blue, and it's from Russia. Then this other one is also from Russia. And I put them side by side because they're very similar. You could hardly tell them apart, other than that the crystals in the near one are much larger. This other one is called Blue Polari, if I can get out of the light. And its crystals are a little smaller, and they're just a vibrant blue. They don't really have any of the green. So these are a couple of other interesting specimens of the variety that can be found in, I guess I shouldn't use the term granite as much as I want to use the term granite. Plutonic igneous rocks. Let's just say it that way. Area of the garden, we have one of many exotic gravels. This particular variety is Russian. It's called blue polari, and occasionally you can find them with those vibrant blue flecks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrub some of these off and put them in water. Okay, let's see what we got. We're starting to lose our sun here. You can see into the water. You see, these have beautiful blues. Just got to kind of turn them until you hit the right angle. There's a little bit there. That one's got some of the gold. They seem to show up more on the edges, which is really interesting. So what these are is slabs that I broke into gravel. And usually when people come over, if they're rock collectors, I tell them, I've told some of you guys, anything that's on the ground, you're welcome to take a few. Ooh, that one had a nice flash. There we go. There's a nice flash. Again, this is blue polari. In fact, that's a nice twinned crystal. I don't know if you can appreciate that in the video. My water is dripping onto the camera. There we go. Get it under the water. It's even clearer. That's actually a twin crystal. Can you see how, as I turn it, half of the crystal right now is reflecting and half of it isn't? Then when I turn it this way, the angle's slightly different because it's a twin. In feldspar, twinning is very common. That's actually a nice twin crystal.
Considering that feldspar, if my science is correct, is the most abundant mineral in the Earth's crust, it really should not surprise us that there exists such a huge and exotic array of varieties, colors, and crystal formations. Another fairly abundant stone seen around here in the sculpture garden is likely what is known as Lundhs ocean granite, which is actually a monzonite quarried in Norway. I say likely because we only had it come through the shop once or twice, and I have lost track of the name. It may very well be something else. As I have mentioned before, it is hard to pinpoint exact information in the stone industry regarding these less common and less known stones. There are just so many hands in the pot between the quarry location and the end user that this information often gets lost or changed along the way.
A little wall along the lawn here, and we're just about to lose the sun, but I caught the last little bit of it, slid the piece out a bit so you can see it. But these are smaller crystals and quite a variety of colors. I remember sometimes this stuff would come in and the flecks would be yellow, greens, rainbow colored. This particular variety is mostly blue. And again, I wish I could remember the names of some of these. You guys will have to forgive me in that department because we literally had thousands upon thousands of slabs over the years. And they would come in with different names depending on who we bought them from. So it was really hard to keep track of the industry names, let alone any locations. It sure is neat stuff. See if that's coming out for you.
I also have gravel made of this material, which is really beautiful.
All right, this is a smaller grained material. It's the last one we looked at on the wall over there. And I think I remember mentioning to you that sometimes it's this blue variety. Lots of fleck when they're under the water. Not sure how much of that shows in the video. There we go. And then there's the more gold variety. And I don't have any bigger pieces of these. I think there wasn't much scrap, or I don't remember what happened. But they're really nice looking material. Kind of a golder, greenish fleck. Anyway, there you have a couple of varieties in one. Might have to put this one on the scanner, see if I can get a good close-up of it. It looks like it's showing good for you.
Here are some close-ups of the different varieties showing in this gravel that I washed off here. Sometimes more blues, others more greens, or even golds and yellows. I do have a few larger pieces around, such as sink cutouts, but now I wish I would have collected more of the material to show off around here. We really can't talk about exotic feldspars like this without at least mentioning what is known as graphic granite, especially since much of it is also pearlescent or iridescent. And unlike these other varieties, many of us can go out and find this material in our own rivers or other places nearby. So let's watch this segment taken from the earlier video on graphic granite.
One beautiful aspect about feldspar, and this carries therefore over into graphic granite, is when you find a piece that's hard enough and solid enough to cut and polish, it often has a sheen. Of course, most of us are familiar with Labradorite. Labradorite is a variety of feldspar, and of course it really has that sheen exaggerated. It's bright colors. But these common feldspars along our rivers, most of them also have a sheen. You can see this piece is polished, you can see the reflection of the sun, but aside from that you can see the sheen. See how it, I believe that's showing up in the video. Very nice. So that's a very attractive feature in a feldspar. This one here, this large graphic granite, hitting it at the right angle. Again, you can see that sheen. Not all of them have it, or at least if you don't cut them the right way, along the right plane, you don't get the sheen. And we'll close this video out with just a brief comment about muscovite mica. Somebody out there might be wondering if muscovite or mica is considered iridescent or pearlescent. And the answer is kind of twofold, yes and no, and I'll explain why in a moment. What we're looking at here is basically a corner piece or an end cut off from a granite countertop slab that was made of a granite pegmatite type material. You can see it clearly has the feldspar, the quartz, and plenty of mica. So the rock we were just looking at, which was a chunk of granite pegmatite, was this exact same material. I don't know if you can appreciate the shine of the mica on the edge. It even peels off quite easily. That's why, because of this fragile mica, these granite slabs had a habit of falling apart. So in the industry, we would glue this mesh on the back. And I want you to notice the square pattern of the mesh, so that when we come down here on this other side, I'm going to show you that muscovite, before air gets into it, doesn't really have any shine. It is actually, let me see if I could block the sun here a little bit. It's actually perfectly transparent. See, you're seeing the sunlight coming through the slab. And if you look closely, yeah, I can see the up and down lines. The up and down lines are the lines of the mesh. You're actually seeing all the way through the slab. And then the horizontal line, some of that's the mesh, but also it's the layering of the mica. And the mica actually takes on the shine, or that pearly look that it has, when air gets behind the plates, behind the sheets. But otherwise, it doesn't really have any pearlescence of its own. It's actually the air shining. Similar to when your windshield cracks, and the air that's in that crack is what makes the crack visible. Anyway, I hope that clarifies the difference between the shine that we see in mica and what we've been talking about in the feldspars. The feldspars, you can polish them and they'll still have the color, whereas mica would not. Anyway, thank you for joining us. It's been a great time. There are many rocks that I tried to find and couldn't. Like I said, a lot of those slabs, different varieties, are incorporated in the sculptures, and they might be down on the bottom. But I showed you what I was able to get some access to. And thank you for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe if you have not already. It really helps us out.